So what we're doing is we're heralding, announcing the coming of the next world, the coming of righteousness, the establishment of a righteous kingdom and the proper people.
Abanawa Shabashimayim Kodash Haya Shemka Yahawa Malakwaka Taba'a Ratazaka Haya Aisha Ba'arataza Kawa Haya Bashimayim Nathan Lanawa Lakam Kal Yawam Wasalak Lanawa Kawabwat Nawa Kasalak Nawa Kawabwati Nawa Wala'a Tabaya Nawa Banasayawan Abo Hawishai Nawa Mayan Rai Kaya Laka Hamalakwath Waha Allah Wahata Pa'arath La Iwalumium Aman.
After this manner therefore pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples for his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutation, hopeful leg out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds. In the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful leg, the believers, the listeners, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai. And what I want to get into today, okay, is pretty much, all right, dealing with the Spanish, all right, and the Incas, okay, because going into the scriptures, when you understand, you know, the narrative, you know, of Jacob and Esau and how pretty much, okay, these two nations, all right, will be at the forefront, you know, of future prophecy and at the forefront of conflict in the earth. All right, because when you go into the Salakia, when you go into the narrative of the Bible, it's surrounded around two nations, and that's Jacob and Esau. Okay, those two nations, pretty much. Matter of fact, let's get some precepts. Let's get Hebrews 11 and 20, and let's get Genesis 20:25 verses 21 through 23. Okay, and let's get Job 9:4, and then we're gonna set the tone. I got this video from the channel, Kings and Generals. Okay, dealing with the clash between the Spanish, okay, and the Incas. All right, I'll start it here. Okay, which when you go into the Inca Empire, it was a very vast empire. Okay, I believe it was 2 million, square miles. And what I'm gonna do, because I'm not gonna play the whole video, I'm just gonna deal with the part of when the Spaniards, came over here to the Americas. So here's the whole video. If you brothers and sisters wanna watch the whole video, I'm gonna catch about midways and let it play out from there, and just commentate, through the scriptures. Let's see. Now, when you go into the lands of the ancient Incas, all right, in modern times, it would be all right, it will be the land of Bolivia, Peru, all right, Ecuador, and what they call Chile. Okay, which when you go into the tribes, because we understand the Northern Kingdom, came over here to the Americas, straight out of the Assyrian captivity. All right, and they came over here and settled new lands, but eventually they would start going off, and one way you can tell that it was the children of Israel, because a lot of customs of the Incas, went back to the custom of the Egyptians, how they worshiped the dead. Okay, going back to how those ancient Egyptians, would worship, the pharaohs. Okay, it was the same concept. All right, showing you that they got, those traditions from, within that Egyptian captivity. You see, and when you go into the 12 tribes, a lot of, those Incas, you had Naphtali, okay, and then you had when you go to Peru, you will have Asher, okay, within there as well. Okay, even some Issachar, okay, but it was a conglomerate of northern kingdoms, and they consisted of, the Inca Empire. Now, let's start out with these precepts, and then we'll get into, the video. Now, this is from the brother, all right, Yashima, tribe of Judah, Genesis 25:21. It says, and Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. Okay, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai. So these two children struggle within her. Okay, which means you go into that word, it goes into how they tried to oppress each other. And that was symbolic of what these two nations would do, okay, in the earth. you know, because whoever is in power dealing with the nations of Jacob and Esau, okay, Israel and Edom, the other one will be oppressed, you know, and it was always a power struggle in the earth, you know, with these two nations, man. Okay, they will always clash. Verse 23, and the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one shall be stronger, okay, than the other. Okay, being Jacob stronger than Esau, all right, and one people, okay, stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And Jacob being what? The elder, Esau being the elder would eventually, in the end of all, you know, this back and forth, Esau would serve the younger. Okay. So Job 9 and 20. That's what I meant to say. So like I probably did say Job 9 and 4. We'll get Job 9 and 20. Now, when you go into the book of Hebrews, this Hebrews 11 and 20 said, by faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. Okay. Now, Esau was blessed with the fatness of the earth, and he was blessed with the sword. Okay. But his rulership would be temporal. Jacob was blessed with the fatness of the earth and rulership, but it was eternal. Okay. And right now we're within the blessing of Esau. Okay. He has fully came into his blessing of the fatness of the earth and ruling it with the sword. All right. So the blessings of that came to Esau was for a time to come, and we in those times now. And the way that man will conquer the earth will be through his blessing. Okay. Esau, Edom conquered the earth through his blessing, which is the sword. You know, and ever since the Renaissance, Esau, Edom has always had advanced weaponry. Now, as far as soldier for soldier, they might not have been as strong, but they would always have some type of edge when it came to weaponry. All right. And that's how he will be able to conquer in the earth. Okay, was his advantage he had on his weaponry, which is what, man, that sword. All right. This is the brother Yashima tribe of Judah. Damn, it's 9-24. I'm tripping, man. I'm tripping. Salaki, brother. Yeah, Job 9-24. You know, the earth giving it to the hand of the wicked. Yeah, I'm tripping, brother. Salaki, Akif. Let me go ahead and cue this up while the brother get that. Because at the end of the day, as we've, been going over in the spirit, when it's your time to conquer, there's nothing that can be done against it. Okay? And we're going to see in this video that there was nothing that, the Incas could do, okay, to prevent Esau, Edom from coming into power, because it was part of prophecy, man. There was his blessing to come into power with the sword, and there was nothing that could be done against this man. All right? Yep. Yeah, it's a lock it, bro. This is the book of Job, chapter 9-24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And when this man came into power, what did he do? Well, you have iconoclasm, which he destroyed the images, of the characters of the Bible. The elite men of the Bible. Okay, he destroyed their images. Okay, and made them, Edomite like unto his image. You see, and the earth has been given unto this man's hand. All right, now I'm gonna go to the video. It should be good. All right, and like I said, I put the video in the link. Let me drop it in there again. For you brothers and sisters just getting in. That's a video. That's the whole video. Like I said, we're just gonna deal about half of it. But you can watch the rest. And it's got some interesting, history in there. You got to spit out the bones. Like with anything else. But it got some pretty interesting history.
100 years ago, atop these snow-capped Andes, in a still barely mapped continent, thousands of meters above sea level, two new empires smashed into each other in a historical collision that reverberates into the modern day. Conquistador and Sapper Inca, men from different worlds, will clash. The Arquebus and Huaraca will meet, and Tawantinsuyu, the land of four parts together, will be undone. In 1528, Hernán Cortés had just returned from Mexico, bringing tales of conquest along with unimaginable treasures. The Holy Roman Emperor and King of Spain, Charles V, received him and his riches in Toledo. As Cortés impressed the royal court, another veteran of the New World arrived at the city. It was Francisco Pizarro, the second cousin of Cortés. Pizarro had arranged to meet the king and planned to impress him with gifts: gold, silver, feathers, natives, and bizarre creatures unknown outside of the Andes. Pizarro told his king of the magical land of Peru, home to a native empire that Pizarro assured him could be conquered in his name. On the 26th of July, 1529, Pizarro was issued a royal license to conquer this new land and named the governor of Peru. Armed with a royal permission, Pizarro set off recruiting.
And what this is, all right, is the early, Renaissance period. All right. If a brother can put let's get the book of Micah, chapter 1, verse 4. No, the book of Malachi, chapter 1, verse 4, and let's get the book of Revelation, chapter 20, verse 7 and 8. And let's get, we just deal with them too. Okay? Because this is what you call, all right, the early Renaissance period. When you go to Renaissance, what does it mean? Rebirth. Okay? The rebirth of the Edomite power structure in the earth. And it was ordained by Yahweh by Shem Shai. So you can see, all right, these Edomites are going throughout the earth and conquering, man. They have people in high positions now, people that's nobility. Okay. And it began with the conquest of Constantinople, all right, by the Ottoman Turks, and then you had the conquest of Granada, the pretty much the last major stronghold that Jake had, in the Dark Ages in 1492. And after that, you started seeing Esau started to expand in the earth, man. Okay, but he was ordained to do that. So we're seeing, just to understand the era that we're in, this is the beginning, all right, of this man's rebirth, all right, him establish himself, as the dominant nation in the earth, and it was ordained for him to do so. That's why no nation could stand in front of this man, during this time. Okay. All right, so this is the brother measures of times 144. This is Malachi 1 and 4. It said, whereas Edom said, we are impoverished, but we will return and build desolate places. Thus said the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. Okay, so Esau, this is Esau's returning and building, okay, his desolate kingdom, his desolate empire. Okay, this is the beginning of that era where we're reading. It says, they shall call them the board of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. Now, because everywhere this man went and conquered, he established it in wickedness. Okay? He established all these different lands. All right, he colonized the earth, but it's established in wickedness, man. Okay, look at the condition of the earth now. You see? And it's due to this man coming back in power. If a brother can put that in Maccabees, how evil's, multiplied in the earth. This Revelation 27, it says, and when 1,000 years expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. And this was the end of that 1,000 years. Okay. When Esau was pushed out of power, that pagan, Roman Empire was pushed out of power. Okay. Jake pretty much worked his way up to the top and infiltrated and took over. Okay. But then around those mid, 1400s, this man began, all right, to place himself in positions of power. Why? Because their seal was loose. He was loosed out of his prison, okay, where he couldn't have no authority in the earth, but that was loose. But it had to be loose from the heavens. He couldn't do nothing before that 1,000-year period was over with to put himself in power. There was nothing he can do. But he was loosed. And we're reading about the time when he was loosed, okay? And it says, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth. So it was meant for him to go all across the earth, as we're about to see him do, to go across, all the way to the other side of the earth and conquer and deceive, man. Okay, but what is going to end up in? Gog and Magog, which is Russia, to gather them together to the battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. So pretty much the scriptures sum up his rulership, okay, from the Renaissance period to now. Okay, he will go forth deceiving the nations, all right, and it will end in him going to war, all right, with his own people, the Russian Edomites, okay, that will end this man's kingdom, okay. It's the brother Yashomai, tribe of Judah. First Maccabees 1:9 says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay, and evils were multiplied in the earth, man. All right. Yeah, and Issachar did worship a lot of idols. That's why. We're gonna get into all of that. And this wasn't just Issachar. It's dealing with the Incas. This was more of Naphtali, and Asher. Down here in this region. Issachar mainly was the Aztecs. Okay, and then you had Zebulun, and Issachar, some of Issachar that will make up the Mayans. Yeah, the Northern Kingdom was heavy into idolatry, which they got from Assyria, and Egypt. I'm gonna let it play some more. I'm gonna run it back just a little bit, and then we're just gonna let it ride for a minute.
The land of four parts together will be undone. In 1528, Hernan Cortés had just returned from Mexico, bringing tales of conquest along with unimaginable treasures. The Holy Roman Emperor and King of Spain, Charles V, received him and his riches in Toledo. As Cortés impressed the royal court, another veteran of the New World arrived at the city. It was Francisco Pizarro, the second cousin of Cortés. Pizarro had arranged to meet the king and planned to impress him with gifts: gold, silver, feathers, natives, and bizarre creatures unknown outside of Andes. Pizarro told his king of the magical land of Peru, home to a native empire that Pizarro assured him could be conquered in his name. On the 26th of July, 1529, Pizarro was issued a royal license to conquer this new land and named the governor of Peru. Armed with a royal permission, Pizarro set off recruiting potential conquistadors. He returned to his hometown of Trujillo, gathered his 4 brothers, Juan, Francisco, Gonzalo, and Hernando, and then set sail for the Americas in January 1530. The Sapa Inca Huayna Capac had recently subdued much of what is now Ecuador, when reports began trickling in. Strange men had traded with the city of Tumbes. Alongside these reports came others that were much more horrific. Chasqui's runners arrived daily, informing the Sapa Inca that a disease had appeared in the north and was killing thousands. Nothing like it had ever been seen before. Plagues were unknown to the Inca, so this strange sickness, known to us as smallpox, ravaged the population. The Eurasian disease was not brought by Pizarro, however, as it arrived slightly before he did, creeping in from North and Central America.
You know damn well who brought that disease, but they go, these commentators be trying to, make Esau look cute. Okay, you know damn well who brought that smallpox, man. Okay, no coincidence that smallpox started wiping out, the very lands, that these Edomites were coming to. But it was given, all right, it was all orchestrated by Yahweh Bashim Shai. Now, let's go from there, because if a brother can post, let's post Leviticus 26, because Leviticus 26, a lot of times we go to Deuteronomy, 28 to go into the curses, but there's even more curses when you go to Leviticus, the 26 chapters, things that will be done, unto us for our disobedience, okay? And the northern kingdom was, they were disobedient, they was into, like I said, they was into idol worship, they was into worshiping the dead, okay? They was, human sacrifice, they was into everything, man, And this is why this was allowed, to happen. Now, let's get Leviticus 26. Let's get Leviticus 26 verses, matter of fact, I'm going to get it on the blue letter because I want to look up a word. Let's get Leviticus 26. And like I said, we'll be in Leviticus, the 26th chapter, for the most part, because, there's like another section of curses, that will happen to us for our disobedience. So let's get Leviticus 26. So when you go to Leviticus, all right. Now this is Leviticus. And you see, it goes into what penalties of disobedience. So what we're watching with, the Spanish coming and take down, okay, those northern tribes, the Incas, okay, there was penalties of disobedience. It says, but if you would not hearken unto me, it's Leviticus 26 and 14. But if you would not hearken unto me and will not do all these commandments, and if you shall despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, so that ye will not do all my commandments, but that you break my covenant, okay, I also will do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror. Okay, hey, because Esau even love to talk about terror as well. No one has terrorized the earth more than Esau Edom. Okay, this was a terrorist attack, all right, but it was appointed for our disobedience. It says consumption and the burning egg that shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of heart, and ye shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemies shall eat it. Okay, which means what? Take, the lands. You see, and also you go into this burning egg, which shall consume the eyes. All right, well, let's go to that. And what does it go into? All right, in the Hebrew is what that is quadakath. All right, quadakath. All right, and it says a fever, inflammation, a burning egg, okay, or fever. You see, that was prophesied to happen unto us. So this smallpox was nothing but the fulfillment of prophecy. The Lord said that would happen, for disobedience. And even when, you jump down some more, okay. It says, verse 17 says, and I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursueth, man. Okay? And remember that part. Okay? Now, what's another one? Yep. Verse 25. It says, and I will bring a sword upon you. So it's like the Most High program these Edomites to come here, man. To come directly. Why do you think they came directly to the Israelites, man? Out of all the people on earth, you had other empires that was made way more wealthy, way more advanced, but it was in his spirit to come directly to Israelites, man, because it was prophecy. He's playing his role in prophecy. It says, and I will bring a sword upon you that shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. Okay? So Esau, Edom was sent. That's why he was so successful, man, because of our people's disobedience. And when you are gathered together within your cities, I will send the pestilence among you, and ye shall be delivered into the hand of the enemy. Okay? And there was nothing, all right, that we could do to stop that from happening, man. Okay? So let's go back to it. Go back to it. So there's smallpox hit, and it wiped out a lot, of the Incas, man.
Tumbes. Alongside these reports came others that were much more horrific. Chesky's runners arrived daily, informing the Sapa Inca that a disease had appeared in the north and was killing thousands. Nothing like it had ever been seen before. Plagues were unknown to the Inca, so this strange sickness, known to us as smallpox, ravaged the population. The Eurasian disease was not brought by Pizarro, however, as it arrived slightly before he did, creeping in from North and Central America. In the following years, up to 90% of the empire would succumb to the disease. Sometime around 1527, the Sapa Inca Huayna Capac and his heir died from smallpox alongside millions of their subjects. 2 years before Pizarro had petitioned the King of Spain, Eurasian germs had initiated the conquest for him. With the succession now unclear and the realm divided, the sons of Huayna Capac both tried to claim the throne and tossed the empire into chaos. Atahualpa, who possessed much less territory than Huáscar, controlled his dead father's veteran legions and slowly pushed down from Quito towards Cusco. During the final bloody climax of the war in 1532, Huáscar's remaining armies were smashed outside of Cusco and he was captured by Atahualpa's generals. Atahualpa was camped over 900 kilometers away in the town of Cajamarca with a small portion of his army awaiting news of the battle. Even with the Incas' exceptional highways and their tireless chesquis, it would take 5 days for word of the victory to reach Atahualpa. There, in Cajamarca, Atahualpa planned his eventual coronation as the supreme ruler of the Inca world. He was eager to get word from his generals and set off on his victory march towards his new capital. But there was just one small detail that he needed to deal with at the moment. Reports were coming in from his chiefs that a small band of 168 foreigners, some of whom were riding giant llamas, was causing havoc on the coast, and it appeared they were now marching straight for Cajamarca. Atahualpa was curious, and rather than have these men killed, he decided to see them and their strange llamas himself. What could 168 do against his 50,000 soldiers? He had agreed to meet the Spaniards in the central plaza of Cajamarca. This was a ceremonial meeting between his vast empire and some lowly visitors. So, on Saturday, November 16th, 1532, Atahualpa entered the square at Cajamarca, followed by 6,000 of his barely armed men. A battle was not expected. Atahualpa was quite confident, as just the day before he had heard of his victory at Cuzco and the capture of his rival brother Huáscar. So this was a day of celebration. Once he had had his meeting with this odd band of foreigners, he could march south and have his glorious coronation. Pizarro and his men had planned to emulate Cortés. They would capture Atahualpa, thus cutting off the head of the Inca Empire and paralyzing it. Atahualpa, as Sapa Inca, was supreme ruler of the empire, and it could not function without him. Pizarro had hidden his men in the buildings surrounding the square, and stationed the artillery and arquebuses on the far side of the square, ready to fire. Like too many fans in a tiny football stadium, the Inca troops crowded into the square, which had only 2 narrow exits. Not a single Spaniard could be seen. As the sun began to set, nothing could be heard in the square except for a slight breeze. The fear inside the stone buildings was incalculable. Pedro Pizarro said, "I heard that many Spaniards urinated on themselves without noticing it from sheer terror." Eventually, 2 men appeared from the buildings and approached Atahualpa. Vicente de Valverde, a Dominican friar, and an inexperienced native translator. The friar read the following to Atahualpa. "I request and require you to recognize the Church as your mistress, and as governess of the world and universe. And if you do not do this, with the help of God we shall come mightily against you, and we shall make war on you everywhere and in every way that we can, and we shall subject you to the yoke and obedience of the Church and His Majesty, and we shall seize your women and children, and we shall make them slaves to sell and dispose of as His Majesty commands. And we shall do all the evil and damage to you that we are able. And I must insist that the deaths and destruction that result from this will be all your fault." This was the Requerimiento, a document read aloud to the native peoples of the New World, informing them of Spain's divine right to conquer these lands in the name of God. Valverde then approached Atahualpa and offered him
And you can see the energy. All right, the Esau came in, man. You know, he was like, look, this is of God. All right, you're going to get out, lay down, pretty much. All right, and if you don't, we just going to perform evil on you. We're going to take your wives and your children captive and put them on a slave trade, and we're going to slaughter the men. Okay? This is the energy that Esau came over there with, man. and why was this happening, man? Prophecy, okay, and showing you that when you go to second Esdras, how it talks about how he should be like a madman, sparing none. The Most High gonna put another type of energy on Esau. It ain't gonna be this energy that Jake used to, man. Okay, the Most High anger gonna be on Esau, man, against the rebellion of our people. Okay, this was the Most High coming up against a rebellion. You see the spirit that Esau came in, man. And this is the establishment of Christianity. That's why you see the majority of the so-called, Latin tribes, okay, Spanish tribes. What are they? They're Roman Catholics. Well, that's by force. Okay, they became Roman Catholics in blood. You see, that's why they hard body into it. Okay.
A Bible. Atahualpa had heard reports of the men's fascination with these objects, but he had no way to contextualize what this was or how to interact with it. He had had enough with these foreigners now, and their disrespect for the Inca diplomatic customs. Atahualpa scolded Valverde and the Spanish for stealing from warehouses and killing Inca chiefs, and proceeded to toss the book aside. Valverde, horrified at this perceived act of extreme blasphemy, sprinted towards the stone buildings, shouting, "Come out! Come out, Christians! Come at these enemy dogs who reject the things of God!" The square again fell silent. With loud roars, the cannons and arquebuses soon fired directly into the mass of warriors, spewing out smoke and metal shrapnel. Inca soldiers, shocked by the sounds, soon saw beasts riding towards them. The Spanish war cry, "Santiago," was screamed as men rushed out of the buildings. A massacre ensued as the panic-stricken Inca force tried to retreat out of the tiny square. Dazed masses of soldiers ran for the narrow exits. It was impossible to escape. Thousands died, trampled under their comrades or horses. Chopping through the men holding the royal litter, Pizarro and his men grabbed Atahualpa and dragged him back into one of the stone buildings. Just that morning, he was basking in a victory that took 4 years to complete. Atahualpa was now, at sunset, prisoner to an unknown group of people. The Inca Empire, which only...
You're probably spending a lot more time at home these days. So when something goes wrong, it's a big deal.
For instance, my water heater broke recently. The AC went out.
The first time I'm leaving my son without me here, and now they don't have hot water.
That's why you need
which only just finished a destructive civil war, was now involved in the highest
So let's go back into Leviticus, and as you can see, what, and it's the spirit is stopped on that picture. If a brother can put Deuteronomy, all right, 32. And yeah, Deuteronomy 32 and 30. Okay, and I'm gonna go back to Leviticus, but put the Deuteronomy 32 up there, and it's a spirit that is stopped on that picture. Okay, showing you that, hey, what the earth gonna learn is whatever Yahweh Shemal Shai has said, and he allowed to be written in that book, it's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen like he said it's gonna happen. Okay, the earth literally gonna reel to and fro like a drunkard. Okay, in World War III. Okay. Yeah. All right, this the brother. All right, Issachar serving Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, Deuteronomy 32 and 30. It said, how should one chase 1,000 and two put 10,000 to flight, except their rock has sold them and the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua has shut them up. So look at look at this picture, man. Okay, what you know, just imagery. All right, but 168 Spaniards had thousands, okay, tens of thousands of Israelite warriors running, man. And what did Esau come with? The goddamn cannon, man. Okay, showing that what? That was his blessing. Okay, he will get the fatness of the earth through that blessing, the sword. Okay, Jake can hold up. All right, to their weaponry, man. Okay. You go here. Do the running. All right, so you go back to Leviticus. Okay, it's Leviticus 26 and 30, and says, and I will destroy your high places and cut down your images and cast your carcasses upon the carcasses of your idols, and my soul shall abhor you. See, Jake was defenseless because they wasn't in sync, okay, with their power. Okay, Jake wasn't in sync with their power. Okay, and Yahweh Bashem Shai allowed, you know, these things to happen. Okay, this is Leviticus 26 and 33. It says, and I will scatter you among the heathen and will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate and your cities waste. And they began, you know, with 70 AD. But even when our people were scattered then, Esau, Edom, another sword came after them, man. Wherever they was at. Okay. Verse 36, it says, and upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their hearts, into the lands of their enemies, and the sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword, and they shall fall when none pursueth, man. Going back to pestilence. And also, you know, Esau's weaponry put a certain fear on Jake, man, because Yahweh Shemal Shah gave, you know, Jake a faint of heart, man. Okay. Verse 27, it says, and they shall fall one upon another as if it were before a sword when none pursueth, and ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies. Okay. And we're seeing an example of that, man. All right, so let's go back to the clip.
States hostage situation of all time. The survivors of the massacre ran from the square, and the rest of the Inca army, now leaderless, dispersed into the countryside. Atahualpa.
So we see that they've taken, all right, these Edomites have taken the Inca emperor, all right, hostage. Okay, now watch how they handle him, man. You know.
Noted the excitement the Spaniards had at finding gold trinkets amongst the wreckage. He concluded that these were pirates from some faraway land. If he could give them enough gold, then they would return to their ships and be gone. He told Pizarro that in exchange for his life and freedom, he would fill the room they were in with gold and twice over with silver. Atahualpa delivered on his promise. For months, the greatest treasures and artifacts of the Inca Empire poured into Cajamarca. The room was filled, and everything was melted down into ingots, which is why gold or silver Inca artifacts are so rare today. In the end, the gold totaled 1.3 million pesos de oro, or around 400 million 2018 US dollars, to be divided between the 168 men and the King of Spain. As the ransom poured in, so did more Spanish troops. Diego de Almagro, Pizarro's business partner, arrived with an extra 153 men. The fact that more Spaniards had arrived made it clear that this was an invasion force. These men were here to stay. After the Inca fulfilled their promise, it became obvious to Pizarro and his men that Atahualpa had outlived his usefulness and was now only a liability. If he were rescued, they would not be able to defeat the resistance he would organize. On July 26, 1533, Atahualpa was brought into the main square of Cajamarca and was tied to a wooden stake. The native population gathered around in awe at what was happening. Atahualpa was not only the supreme ruler of the empire, but also their god. Watching this happen must have shaken the entire world view of the local people. Valverde, the same friar that offered him a Bible a month before, came to him and offered a baptism. If Atahualpa rejected this offer, he would be burned alive. No fate could be worse for him. If his body were not perfectly preserved like the previous emperors, then he would not pass on correctly to the afterlife. He accepted and was quickly baptized. Still, he was then strangled to death as a Christian. The conquistadors soon left Cajamarca and began the long trek to Cuzco. As the square and that lonely stake in its center faded into the distance, Pizarro and his men must have felt confident that this wealthy empire was already in their hands. But
So you see how the Christians handle them, right? Okay. You see that Christian love, you know? He was baptized and still, okay, was put to death, man. All right. And look, cry now, laugh later. Don't come with all this madness, man. Come on, dude. You know, you coming with confusion, man. You're not doing all that, man. Okay. But going back to the point, you see how, you know, the Edomite Christian handled it, didn't it? You know, but then they'll pop up at camp saying all love. Now, like I say, Jake was going off. All right. But then you had, you know, this Inca emperor gave these people, you know, $400 million worth of gold. Okay. And what happened? More Edomites pulled up. You see? And our people that expect mercy from Esau, Edom, is going to be in for a rude awakening. If a brother can put Jeremiah 17 and 5, you know, Jeremiah 17:5, because you see how the Incas, they looked at their emperor as a god, but the Most High show all of them that he's not a god. Okay. And this gonna sum it up, you know, in Jeremiah 17:5, you know. But this also shows, you know, how merciless, you know, Esau Edom is, man. Okay, this is brother Bayan Yashala, Jeremiah 17:5. Thus said the Lord, cursed be the man that trusts in man. Yeah, because they looked at, you know, this Inca emperor as a savior. Okay, but they see, all right, when it was time for him to be that savior, to be a God, he couldn't do it. Okay, it says to make it flesh his arm, and whose heart departed from the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shah. And all right, the Incas, all right, those northern tribes, okay, they was departed from Yahweh Shema Shah, the true power, you know. and they was powerless against their enemies.
But the conquest of the Inca was far from over.
I discovered the 8 immortal kings of Samaria lived a total of 241,200 years. I've discovered through my research that these type of stories have an element.
The body of the god King Atahualpa lay partially burned in a hastily dug ditch near Cajamarca. His empire was now in the hands of Francisco Pizarro and his brothers. On their long march towards Cuzco, they encountered the teenage brother of Huáscar, Manco Inca, and placed him on the throne. Wielding power through this puppet king, the conquistadors were welcomed into Cuzco as liberators rather than conquerors. The new Inca-Spanish military alliance crushed all forces within the empire that had remained loyal to Atahualpa's faction. With the massive empire now firmly in his grip and a military alliance secured with the Manco Inca, Pizarro and his brothers set about transforming Tahuantinsuyu into New Castile. Lands and lordships over the natives were handed out to Pizarro's men. Those few hundred conquistadors, many of them poor and illiterate, soon found themselves rich beyond their wildest expectations. After Manco Inca's coronation in Cuzco, both leaders of the Spanish expedition would leave the city. Francisco Pizarro would go to the coast to found the city now known as Lima, and Diego de Almagro, frustrated that Pizarro had been named the sole governor of Peru and furious that Pizarro had refused to share Atahualpa's ransom with him and his men, departed with 570 Spanish cavalry and foot soldiers and with 12,000 native troops. His goal was to conquer the southern part of the Inca Empire in what is now Chile. The Inca capital, Cuzco, was now left in the hands of Manco Inca and Pizarro's 2 younger brothers, Juan and Gonzalo. Manco Inca tried to get to work rebuilding his fractured and smallpox-ridden realm, but with Juan and Gonzalo now in charge of the city, the illusion of an equal alliance between the emperor and the Pizarros quickly shattered. Juan and Gonzalo harassed Manco Inca for gold, silver, and native women. They soon began to disrespect him in public, and then Gonzalo Pizarro kidnapped and raped Manco Inca's wife, Cura Oclo. Soon he was imprisoned and beaten. Manco Inca now became aware of the horrific bargain he had made for the title of Sapa Inca. Tensions had reached a boiling point. In early November of 1535, 2 years after the death of Atahualpa, the puppet king Manco took his first steps towards rebellion. A secret meeting of the Inca nobility was called, and Manco made a speech to his chiefs. "I ask you, where did we meet them? What is it that we owe them? Or which one of them did we injure, so that with these horses and weapons of iron they have made such cruel war on us? It seems to me that it would be neither just nor honest that we put up with this. Rather, we should strive with the utmost determination to either die to the last man or to kill our cruel enemies." Manco fled the city into the harsh Andes, and soon the Inca war machine began to slowly creak into motion. Chasqui's runners breathlessly crisscrossed the empire, bringing word of Manco's rebellion to the native chiefs. Soon the conquistadors, now the feudal lords, were individually lured away from their palaces and manors and clubbed to death. Within months, these small-scale attacks had killed more Spaniards than had died in the entire conquest thus far. As reports of these deaths trickled into Cuzco and Lima, far off in the mountains, native soldiers started gathering clubs, axes, spears, and halberds from their warehouses and marching across the Andes to answer the call of their emperor. The 20-year-old great-great-grandson of Pachacuti, who had served as a meek puppet for 2 years, was now at war with the invaders from across the sea. Like a giant blanket covering the hillsides, the immense legions of Manco converged on Cuzco. Hernando, Juan, and Gonzalo Pizarro were now trapped inside, along with 196 Spaniards, a handful of African slaves and Morisca women, and hundreds of native allies. Early in the morning, on Saturday the 6th of May, 1536, conch shell trumpets rang out from the mountains surrounding Cuzco. A curtain
Now you see they had what you call African American slaves, okay? There was the Southern Kingdom that Portugal, and Spanish, monarchs, was already colonizing what they call the slave coast. Hence, you have the name Sierra Leone. Okay, you had these European, all right, colonists already, because then the Spanish took down the Moors, so you already had the Southern Kingdom. There was parts of the Southern Kingdom that was in captivity, to the throne of Spain. Okay, before they came over here, so they had Southern Kingdom slaves with them. Okay, then they said they had Moorish women. Okay, and then they had also the sellouts among the Northern Kingdom that was over here, man. Because even going back to the curses, the scriptures say how, I will be evil, towards our brother. Okay. But now watch this attack and just listen to the numbers and see how it was nothing that Jake could do, man. Jake just had to eat this L.
Like a giant blanket covering the hillsides, the immense legions of Manco converged on Cuzco. Hernando, Juan, and Gonzalo Pizarro were now trapped inside, along with 196 Spaniards, a handful of African slaves and Morisca women, and hundreds of native allies. Early in the morning, on Saturday the 6th of May, 1536, conch shell trumpets rang out from the mountains surrounding Cuzco. A curtain of javelins, rocks, and arrows darkened the sky, while 100,000 soldiers, wielding massive spears and clubs, began to slowly make their way down the hillside, encircling the glittering city. The constant barrage forced the defenders to immediately run for cover.
People with ADHD save 10 hours studying with this Chrome extension. But no, by all means, go ahead. Skip the ad. Save a few seconds.
I have to do a lot of reading.
Inca troops poured into the city and forced the Spaniards to retreat into 2 buildings located in the main plaza. Manco knew from experience that Inca weapons were ineffective against Spanish armor and cavalry. It was near impossible for an Inca to kill a Spaniard in hand-to-hand combat. No matter the strength behind a blow or the bravery of the warrior, stone and bronze could never pierce steel. The Spanish could only be killed if knocked from their horses or with a direct impact to the face. Manco's strategy was to tighten a noose around the city, trap the Spaniards,
So you see how the Most High down there had Esau immortal. Okay, they had no weaponry, that can penetrate, the armor of them Spanish, man. Okay, why? Because it was ordained from on high, man. The Lord's word gonna be fulfilled. 100,000 Inca troops, man, versus a few hundred Spaniards, man.
and then overwhelmed them with his superior numbers. In a panic, the Spaniards darted between buildings, now transformed into bunkers. Hernando Pizarro was screaming orders and doing his best to reinforce his position. But before they could even formulate a real plan, the roof of the buildings caught fire. Inca slingers and archers were firing red-hot rocks and flaming arrows into the city. The trapped Spaniards soon found themselves suffocating from the smoke. Hot ashes filled the air. Broken beams fell from the ceiling, tossing up fresh, burning embers. As the heat became more intense, it seemed all hope was lost, until suddenly the fire went out. Some Spaniards claimed to have seen the Virgin Mary herself descend from heaven and put out the flames. The Inca chronicles report that it was the African slaves that the Spanish had stationed on the roof who put it out under a barrage of arrows and rocks. The Incas continued to heave against the Spanish defenses. Unable to cut through their armor or defend against a cavalry charge, they swarmed the city and laid a noose around the precarious Spanish position. At the end of the day, they had to cease the attack, barricade the streets they had taken, and rest. From his command center nearby in Calca, Manco Inca no doubt was certain that within days he would see his men storm the Spanish holdout and bring him victory. The siege dragged on, however. As months passed, new strategies had to be developed. The Inca tore apart roads and streets in order to neutralize cavalry charges. They feigned retreats down narrow alleys in order to lure horsemen into traps. Bolas, a weapon normally reserved for hunting, was introduced in order to tie up charging horses' legs. The battle for Cuzco was brutal and long. Spaniards on horses charged at Inca soldiers down narrow streets, and the entire city was essentially reduced to ashes. In the city, one eyewitness wrote, the Indians waged such a fierce attack that the Spaniards thought themselves 1,000 times lost. While he besieged Cuzco, Manco had sent his finest general, Quiso, to tie down Francisco Pizarro, who was currently in Lima. Quiso was an excellent tactician. He had realized that attacking cavalry on a level ground was a death sentence. Inca troops could do nothing against a charge. Instead, he would use the terrain against them, only meeting the Spanish on steep hills and mountains. There he would lure them into a tight pass, block the entrances with his troops, and rain boulders down on the horses. Quiso managed to wipe out a total of 4 separate Spanish relief forces using these tactics, and sent Spanish weapons and armor back to his emperor at Cuzco. Francisco Pizarro started to panic. He had just sent more than 100 horsemen to their deaths at the hands of Quiso, and now had 100 Spaniards to defend Lima. Just months before, he had total control over the Inca. Now, Cuzco was besieged, his brother Juan dead there, an army was outside Lima hunting down Spaniards, and more than a third of his forces were dead. Hearing of Quiso's unprecedented victories, Manco ordered him to proceed to Lima and destroy the city. Not to lay siege to it like he was doing back at Cuzco, but to destroy it. Lima was a Spanish city, founded near the coast to facilitate trade, and unlike Inca cities, it was built on a flat plain. Manco's excitement at Quiso's victories had blinded him to the fact that Quiso was using tactics that could not work at Lima. Ordering him to attack Lima was a grave error. Quiso assaulted the city and failed to take it. He attacked again and continued to be beaten back. But his emperor had ordered him to take it, and Quiso knew Manco needed him back at Cuzco, that he needed this city and Francisco Pizarro gone, and nothing else would be sufficient. On the 6th day of the siege of Lima, Inca troops again poured down from the hills and marched along the flat plain towards the city, with General Quiso leading the charge, lance in hand, with his hand-selected vanguard. As he entered the city, a sudden barrage of arquebuses roared and ripped through the front line. Santiago was screamed as a cavalry charge rammed through the vanguard. As the dust settled and smoke cleared, the Inca army soon saw their general lying on the ground with a Spanish lance in his heart. The greatest general the Inca had was dead, and his army soon disappeared into the mountains. Pizarro was now free to go break the siege of Cuzco. Breathless Chesky's runners arrived from across the empire. They brought unwelcome news to Manco. Quiso was dead, Pizarro was approaching, Diego de Almagro had returned from Chile, defeated but with a sizable army, and Spanish reinforcements were arriving from the north. His fortunes, only so recently extremely promising, had now taken a grim turn. He had lost, and he knew it. The 10-month-long siege of Cuzco was a failure. Manco assembled his chiefs and captains, and with a solemn voice, he informed his people that he would cede his treasures, his home, his empire, and would retreat into the remote rainforest region of the empire called Vilcabamba. From there, he would try and fight another day. As Manco retreated deep into the rainforest, he brought with him the mummies of all the Sapa Incas that had ruled before him, including his father, Huayna Capac, and his great-great-grandfather, Pachacuti. From Vilcabamba, Manco waged an aggressive guerrilla-style campaign against the Spanish. His soldiers ambushed supply convoys, raided new towns, stole caches of weapons and horses, and then vanished back into the rainforest. His men learned how to ride horses, fire guns, and fashion Spanish weapons. But the population of Spaniards in Peru essentially doubled with each passing year. It became clear to Manco as he aged that survival was possible, but Tahuantinsuyu, a land of 4 parts together, would never be remade. His state would continue to survive in the rainforest. As Almagro died fighting a civil war against the Pizarros, as Francisco Pizarro was assassinated, while Hernando Pizarro rotted in a Spanish prison, and as Gonzalo Pizarro was executed on the orders of the king, the Inca state plunged for decades. Eventually, in 1572, 36 years after Manco's rebellion, his son and the last Inca emperor, Tupac Amaru, was captured and executed, and the empire of Pachacuti was erased. These videos are made possible by our brilliant patrons over at Patreon and our YouTube sponsors. Visit our Patreon to learn more about the perks. This is the Kings and Generals channel, and we will catch you on the next one.
So as you can see, 100,000, Inca warriors, couldn't take the city, from a few hundred Spaniards, man. All right, then you know that there was a high power in play, and you see all those events that was happening, all right, that hindered, the Incas from overcoming, those Spaniards, okay, because it was prophecy, man. All right. So when you go into the scriptures, like I say, all this is proof that the scriptures reign supreme, man. Let's get the book of Psalms. All right. Chapter 33. All right, in Psalms 33 and 16 says, there is no king saved by the multitude of an host. A mighty man is not delivered by much strength. Okay, because they say it don't matter how much force, the strongest Inca warrior, no matter how much force he used, he couldn't break through, the armor of those Spaniards, man. Okay, because his strength is not sufficient, all right, to overcome the will of Yahweh Shema Shai. It says, a horse is a vain thing for safety, neither shall he deliver any by his great strength. Behold, the eye of the Lord is upon them that fear him, upon them that hope in his mercy, to deliver their soul from death and keep them alive in famine. Our soul waited for the Lord Yahweh Shema Shai. He is our help and our shield, for our heart shall rejoice in him, because we have trusted in his holy name. Okay? Let thy mercy, O Lord, be upon us according as we hope in thee. And that's how the elect are going to get the victory, okay, in this war. Okay? Because without Yahweh Shem Shai, we're powerless, man. And we just seen that. Okay? There's nothing that they could have did to overcome them Spaniards, man. You know? But through faith, it's going to be the exact opposite. Okay? We're going to be the ones overcoming big numbers through small numbers, man. All right? And just like, you know, Esau, he came into power, there was nothing that could be done. The same way for us, man. You know? And this should give us, you know, faith in what's written. Because everything else done came to pass, you know. You think he going to stop now? You think the Most High going to stop now? The scriptures say it is his pleasure. Okay? A brother can put that up. I think there's Luke 12 and is it 33, 36. How is his pleasure to give us the kingdom? You know? There's the book of 1 Samuel 2 and 7. It says, the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Shah, make it poor and make it rich. He bring it low and lift it up. Hey, because you see how, you know, those Spaniards who can barely read and write, they became rich off spoiling the Inca Empire. They had no idea that they was going to come over there and become that rich. Okay? But showing you it's all in the will of Yahweh Bashim Shah. It's 1 Samuel 2 and 8. It says he raises up the poor out of the dust, and we're that poor that's being raised out of confusion. Okay? And lifted up the beggar from the dunghill to set them among princes and make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he have set the world upon them. So we're coming out of that dust, and the main confusion is understanding who we are and understanding who our power is, man, and understanding what he requires. And now we're linked back up to our power. Now that's going to lead to the promotion, man. Okay? It says he will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be in silent in darkness, for by strength shall no man prevail. Okay? Man cannot, okay, overcome the will of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Okay? Man can't do that, man. You see? So let's get these last few, you know? So we're finna see Esau with his Air Force and his tanks and his technology and his CERN and, you know, his weather machines and all these things that he has is all gonna fail, man. You know? So let's get these. You know, this came out earlier. It's from the brother cried now, laugh later. It's Isaiah 40 and 2. It says, speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem and cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned. For she had received of the Lord's hand double for all her sins, man. Okay? And that's going to happen. See, when we're pardoned, there's nothing Esau can do to put blame on us, man. Okay? The accuser of the brethren, he's going to fail. All right? This is the brother Measures of Times 144. This Luke 12 and 32. It says, fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And if it's his good pleasure to give us the kingdom, okay, he's gonna go all out to make sure that happen, man. Okay, he's gonna go all out to make sure that happen, man. And we end it here. All right, this is brother Issachar serving Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Okay, it's a perfect precept to end it on. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth, man. Okay, so Lord will. You know, we're of that number, all right, that's going to reign, okay, with Yahweh Shah, man. You know, we're part of that remnant that's going to reign, you know, with Yahweh Shah, man. All right. So, Lord, will you, brothers, you know, you few sisters were edified once again, and give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash, double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, Being a great example towards younger brothers, and peace and blessed salutations to the hopeful elect. Shalom.